Good evening. Welcome to the first of Bridgewater's two candidates forums for the town election on January 7th, 2023. Amazing that we're that close to 2023. Tonight we have three candidates. Two of them are running in the one contested race that we have, and one is running just by himself. So we're going to ask some questions, they're going to give some answers, and our public is going to be better informed when this is all done. I'm one of your moderators, Marilee Kenny Hunt, and I will pass it over now to my co-moderator, Peter Linares.
Hello, and thank you, Marilee. My name is Peter Linares. I am a resident here in Bridgewater and have been for the last 25 years. I'm also a member on the Board of Registrars as well as a member of the Republican Town Committee here in Bridgewater. So for our contestants, we have tonight Mr. Noel and Dr. Perry, who, as Marilee mentioned, are running contested at large, which expiring in 2025. And then we also have Bill Wood at large expiring in 2023. So we could go ahead and do the first question.
I'll go up and
All right.
give him a question. We're literally pulling it out.
Yes. We are pulling it out of the hat. So we have all 5 questions in a hat, and Mr. Noel is going to pick the first one for us.
The first one, and this will be for the both of you.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then Bill, I'll let you, as long as I'm up here, you pick yours, don't look at it.
Okay, I won't look at it.
All right there, Mr. Noel, what do you got for the question there?
I have question number 2.
Would you like Peter to read it?
I can read it for
Read
you.
it out loud.
Citizens regularly complain because the town council does not respond to questions or concerns expressed during citizens forum or citizens comments. What is your opinion of that complaint? Understanding it is impossible for the council to respond on the spot, what would you recommend the council do to address citizens' concerns?
I think the complaint is valid. Obviously, as a resident, it's absolutely important that you have to be able to explain and express your challenges. So what would I do? What I would do is I would put forth a recommendation to create a citizens inquiry response page that I'm calling an IRP. And the objective of the IRP is it would allow citizens to check in on their inquiries. So almost in real time, citizens can actually see how their inquiries are going from one stage to the next until it completes itself. Now, in terms of timeline, obviously some challenges would be resolved sooner than others, and then others would certainly require a much longer timeline to be resolved. So that's what I would do, is I would certainly create a recommendation so that we can work with town's IT to institute what I'm calling a Citizens Inquiry Response Page, IRP. So citizens can see what's going on with their inquiries and how it's being addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Perry.
Thank you. Well, according to the council rules, all the questions that are posed to the council they're posed to the council as a whole, but it's all channeled through the president. Inquiries are usually responded to as info is made available, or it can be addressed at a future meeting. And again, those are the council rules when it comes to answering anyone's particular questions in the open forum or under citizens' comments. Personally, as a current member of the town council, if a question is posed that I have immediate information about, I'll certainly potentially address that in my council comment section at the end of the meeting. But if I can address that through email, if someone has a particular question that they want answered and they want to email to me, every council member has an email address. I'd be happy to answer any question that they have at a later date, or if research is needed, I would do that research and answer that question. Sometimes the questions could be answered right away. Sometimes they do need to be researched a little bit before an answer is given. But that's currently how it's worked at the council level for a long time now, and I think for the most part it works pretty well. Rig's idea might be a great idea. We'll have to look into that and see if that could be helpful.
All right, thank you. And then, Mr. Wood, what do you have for a question there, please? So Bill got to pick a different question, so we'll see what he's got there.
So now I have to put on my question glasses.
Well, I can read it to you. Just tell me what number you have.
Number 4, go ahead and read that, please.
Oh, number 4? Number 4. All right. The council president assigns councilors to council committees at the beginning of each council year. On which council committees are you interested in serving? Have you attended in person or via Zoom meetings of council committees in the past 2 years? Which ones and why?
Okay, great questions. I have in past attended some other committees that are meeting, especially if it's legislation that I've sponsored or are interested in. We have to be really careful when we meet with committees that we don't exceed quorum and that we don't have open meeting law violations. So often when it's a committee that I'm not directly on, I will usually sit in and not say anything. Or if there's participation because it's sponsorship and they're asking me questions, it'll be that limited. But in terms of committees that I've served on, my 2 favorites are Budget and Finance and Rules and Procedures. Early on, it was Rules and Procedures because the formation of this form of government was very important to get right. So that was the committee that had the responsibility for putting things like the administrative code together and some other functions like that. Budget and Finance is why I serve on the council, or why I served on the council in the beginning. And that was to bring, to elevate Bridgewater from a point of negative $750 million in free cash up to the point we are now, which is this year we had just over $3 million in free cash. And we have policies in place, what happens to that free cash, so it becomes spendable in capital items and other areas that are needed like that. Thank you.
We told our contested candidates if they ever wanted to contest or discuss anything along with their question, that you have the opportunity to do that. So I just want to give you the opportunity before I come and take your question away from you and give you another one. Was there anything that you wanted to discuss with each other or question?
No,
Okay.
not too good.
Okay.
Sorry, Rick.
What number did you get, Kevin?
I have question 3.
Okay.
And again, I'd appreciate the reading because the sprint's getting kind of small.
All right. Okay, question number 3 was pulled by Mr. Perry, Dr. Perry there. So the administrative code requires the town clerk, energy committee, community preservation committee, and library board of trustees report annually to the town council, yet the council rarely, if ever, schedules or requests those meetings. Do you think it is necessary for the council to hear from the office, from that office and those committees? In general, as a councilor, how would you ensure communication between all town departments, BCCs, and the council?
Thank you. No, it's a wonderful question. I do feel it's very important to hear from all of those offices and committees as a town council member. I do think we hear from the town clerk periodically. She's at many meetings and certainly gives reports that are important at times that she mentions to us. In the past, I think we've actually had a few meetings with CPC. But I think it's been a while since we've had a joint meeting. We have joint meetings as well with school committee and other different groups here and there. But I think it's something to approach, and I think it would be a good thing to revisit potentially hearing from those groups and committees a little bit more frequently. I think at least a summary report from those committees and/or a general meeting to summarize their activities would be an appropriate thing to do going forward. As far as how to ensure communication between all the departments and the committees and the council, I think it's a significant challenge. We've had many discussions between websites and emails and different things like that. It's definitely something I think strategic planning is working on and trying to come up with some better ideas to work on that. But I think Currently, all town departments report to the town manager, and through the town manager's report to the council members, we get a summary of what many of those departments are doing. Outside of looking up at the minutes of the different committees, there's really currently no direct reporting system for those committees at this time. Therefore, I think, the committees could definitely create some sort of summary report. Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's every 6 months, or whatever those committees could come up with, to report always to the town manager, but also to the town council as well, that would work on enhancing the communication of what those committees are doing. And again, if there's important things being put forth in front of those committees, I think the town council could always request those committees to come, or at least have the head of those committees to speak in front of the council at any time. Thank you.
Mr. Noel? Would you
I
like me to
absolutely-
repeat the question?
Please.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. The administrative code requires the town clerk, energy committee, community preservation committee, and the library board of trustees report annually to the town council, yet the council rarely, if ever, schedules a request of those meetings. Do you think it is necessary for the council to hear from that office and those committees? In general, as a counselor, how would you ensure communication between all town departments, BCCs, and the council? That was question 3, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate it. My direct response is absolutely yes. It is absolutely important to connect with these departments that you had highlighted. And the reason for that is, it's really important to kind of think about, what operational pros and cons that they're dealing with. Meeting with these departments, once a year is not sufficient enough. For me, as just as a person, I'm a problem solver, and when I see an issue, the way my brain works is I want to solve the problem. Now, not to say that these meetings will always be about solving problems, but it's to understand what's going on in their world. It's to understand, as a council, right, what can my colleagues and I do to help support, things that they might be going through. So the answer is yes, flat out yes. We should be meeting with them. Annually, I don't think once annually is sufficient. I do think perhaps, looking at a different system, maybe quarterly, 4 times a year, would make sense.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to interrupt for one second. In addition to being the moderator, I'm also the town clerk, which is one of those positions. And I will just say, in 7 years of being town clerk, I've been asked one time to come before the council. Every other time I've come before the council, it's been at my request or in the public forum, where I can ask questions, which often don't get answered. So I'm just, I'm just saying, it may seem that people come before the council quite often or are reporting on things, but that isn't always because the council has asked them to be there or wanted them to be there.
Am I allowed to respond?
Sure, and then Dr. Perry can too. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Number one, as a resident, I come by your office as frequent as I possibly can. I think that you and your team do such a phenomenal job just with the work that you guys are doing and the amount of opportunities that are on your plate. That's number one. Number two, I love to see a great smile. So being able to engage and interact, that alone for me personally is part of my disposition, number one, as a town resident. And then number two, if I were to be someone in that, in this seat representing this town and representing the city, the citizens of this town, it would be my responsibility to make sure that I check in with all of the departments, right? Because we have a responsibility on our hands as a council to represent the citizens, and you're a member of the city, you're a citizen as well. So not only are you an employee of the town, but you are also a citizen. So certainly, I do think it's important for for regular check-ins to happen where town council have to engage and have to initiate it.
Okay. And
Dr.
Dr. Perry?
Thank you. Well, I think, and Mary Lee, I do acknowledge that you are here at many of the meetings already, so I think we, maybe as a council, just take advantage of the fact that you're here and ask you questions accordingly, and maybe ask you to put your town clerk hat on for a moment if we have a particular question that comes about. But I think if you were not coming here as regularly as you do, that we might have more of a request to have you come and speak. And usually coming from the president of the council who sets the agenda along with the council clerk and stuff. But I think we just tend to take advantage of the time that you're here and use, get information from you when you're here.
Okay. Should we move on to Mr. Wood there? All right. What number did you get there?
Number 5.
Number 5. All right. All right, Mr. Wood. What do you see as the most pressing issue or issues for the council in the next year? How did you come to that conclusion, and how do you expect it to be addressed by the council?
Great question. So one of the things that we go through on an annual basis is the budget process. And so the budget process, in my mind, sets the strategy for the town. So we have to take a look at all the needs of the town and the available revenue that we have and come up with a plan submitted first by the town manager and then validated by the town council about how we're going to approach that strategy. So important things are sometimes not budgeted, and that's a problem. That's a big problem. So downtown revitalization is on everybody's hot topic right now. We don't actually have a budget for that, so there's not a lot that can go on, but we need some strategy around that. We also know that we've got some fire station work going on, and the new elementary school. We know that we took back the middle school, and that needs a lot of work. So there's a lot of strategy that goes on, as well as with the 5-year capital plan that the school and town put together, and that all comes back and revolves around the budget. So individually, for me, the most important thing is to make sure the budget represents a fair set of goals that the town can achieve that collectively we can agree on.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Questions again.
Yep. All right, we're going to go up and get some more questions.
Are you keeping track of my questions? So when we cycle around? Okay. Okay. I trust you. You can randomly assign me one I haven't had before if you want.
Well, if you get one that you've had before, you just have to keep going until you don't get it.
Oh, okay.
New one?
Yep, a new one.
All right, then, Ms. Noel, what did you get? What number did you get?
Question number 4.
4. All right. Let me see. So question 4 states the council president assigns councilors to council committees at the beginning of each council year. Which council committees are you interested in serving? Have you attended in person or via Zoom meetings of council committees in the past 2 years? Which ones and why?
Thank you. So there are 4 committees that interest me. Not that the others are not important, but certainly the 4 that interest me, Citizens Advisory Committee, DE&I, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee, Elder Affairs Commission, and the Housing Partnership Committee. I currently serve as
May I interrupt?
Absolutely,
Mr.
yes.
Noel? We were asking for town council committees on this.
Thank you, appreciate
What
it.
you were naming were what we call the BCCs, the boards, committees, and commissions. Those are the volunteer.
Yep.
Not that the council commission isn't a volunteer.
I appreciate it. Certainly the Budget and Finance. The Budget and Finance Committee, I sit, I'm a committee member on the Finance Committee, and I have an opportunity, along with my colleagues who serve on this committee, to advise accordingly on town expenditures. The Budget and Finance Committee would be one that is important to me because sitting on that committee as a resident and also a volunteer member, there are some dated contracts that, unfortunately, we're paying out. It's a challenge for me because these contracts are extremely dated. And I start to think about, you know, the dealings behind these contracts, right? I start to think about, you know, the pain points that this current administration perhaps might be facing. And I know my colleague highlighted, you know, his passion for the Budget and Finance Committee. That would also be my passion, is to understand how are we spending our monies, what contracts are we getting into, and are those contracts, do they make sense, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're paying old contracts that really doesn't make sense, the residents are paying for those contracts. As a taxpayer, I'm paying for it, you're paying for it. And it's just not fair, right? But this is the current disposition that we find ourselves in. And, you know, we have to get through these dated contracts in order for us to, you know, in order for us to be operating in a more effective and efficient manner financially.
All right, thank you, Mr. Perry.
Thank you. Well, as you know, I'm currently on the town council, so I'm currently on the Public Safety Committee and the Strategic Planning Committee, and I'm also chair of the Downtown Revitalization Ad Hoc Committee. I love being on all these committees. I've enjoyed my time working with them, and if reelected, I certainly would like to continue my work with those, especially the downtown revitalization. I think we're just starting to get the ball rolling as a group on that, and as Mr. Wood had mentioned, we got to look at budgetary financing for some of those changes that we're looking to do. I also was on the Community and Economic Development Committee as well in the past when I was on the council years ago. And being a business owner here in the town of Bridgewater, I felt a very strong connection to that subcommittee as well. So if reelected, I would be happy to be in any of those on those subcommittees to continue on those paths. And then, but again, wherever my need is needed, budget and finance, rules and procedures, I'd be happy to be on any subcommittee that the president would put me on. Other than that, that's all I got on this particular question. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Wood, what do you have for a question there? What
All
number?
right, I have number 1.
1. Oh, we haven't gotten that one yet. All right.
That's awful.
All
I don't
right.
do bifocals because that just messes me up for work.
So Bridgewater has 32 boards, commissions, and committees, the BCCs we call them. So where citizens appointed by the town manager and ratified by the town council volunteer their services for 2 to 5 years. What importance do you attach to those volunteer committees? What BCC meetings have you either attended or read the minutes for in the past 2 years, and why?
That's a great question, and hopefully we can cover that in the next hour or so. Going back to the discussion I had earlier on the we call it the just the whole structure of the boards. I was a chief architect along with others. I had a really head start on the design of that because the charter, as a transitional item, said we needed to have a structure of boards, committees, et cetera. And the work wasn't being done early on. And I joined with some others initially, and then we formalized it, and then we got it done after a really long time. So I'm really familiar with the structure of the 32 groups, how they interact with each other, how they interact with the town manager, and how they interact with the town council. Many of them are and should be autonomous. So like the planning board is under the old structure of open meeting law with the old town meeting. So there's a lot of laws at the state level that these committees work to enforce for the town of Bridgewater. So you have conservation, you have planning board, you have board of health, you have a multitude of others. And so the process used to be elected in many cases, and now we have a recommendation board to the town manager. And so that group really vets the candidates for the 32 boards when opportunities come up, vacancies or renewals or that sort of thing. And then the town council votes on the recommendation from the town manager. So the town manager's not putting people on the board, he's recommending that people be put on the board, and the town council ratifies that. And they can say no, and that's happened in the past, but often the citizen review board is so good, they either find a person that fits perfectly in the batch, or they find someone, or they recommend to that person another vacancy that's a good match. And so that process has been working really well, and it's good.
All right, thank you. All right, whoops.
I was going to say, if Mr. Noel or Dr. Perry, did you have anything that you wanted to discuss? We said we'd give you time if you had any opinions about what the other ones said.
From the
For
prior
this-
question?
For this question, for the question you just did. Just giving you that opportunity.
No,
What you said was fine, and
Okay.
I'm good.
Next round.
Next round.
Okay.
What I haven't had yet, I'm down to, I think, 1 and 5. I think that's the numbers that are left. Let's see. Nope, 3. I think we got 3. Yes, we already got 3. There's 5. I think we haven't had 5 yet.
I think I'm down to 2 and 3, so we'll see if I can pick that 3. Let's see. I got, look, number 3.
All right, Dr. Perry, you said 5?
Number 5, sir,
All right.
number 5.
So, what do you see as the most pressing issue for the council in the next year? How did you come to that conclusion, and how do you expect it to be addressed by the council?
Well, as Mr. Wood alluded to earlier when he answered the question, the number one thing every year is certainly the budget, and that kind of creates a framework for everything else going forward. But certainly for the upcoming year, one of the biggest things we're tackling is obviously the building of the new fire station, and working potentially tearing down the old one, and that kind of expands onto downtown revitalization. So I think those are the 2 biggest things coming down the pike for us to tackle as a council. We just created a new master plan, which I was able to be a part of that as well. So I think one of the big goals that the council should have is to formulate more goals in alignment with the master plan to move forward the town, with its goals and plans that we put together in that plan. Other smaller things, we got to, our new water treatment plant that's been built, we got to get that online and get our new sewer treatment plant built. I think we should look at certainly further updates and improvements to the town website to improve communication throughout the town. As we're always trying to do, work to improve our roadways and infrastructure. Doing so can certainly allow the town to continue to bring in new business and expand our business tax base. I would like to continue to work with the town manager, reviewing town departments, making improvements on their functionality, and as well as staffing levels. I know there's a number of different departments that could certainly use improvements in staffing levels. I would certainly, individually and as a council, want to see us continue to work closely with our town manager to keep him on task with the goals that we have for him, and continue the vision that we have through our various plans, our master plan, to continue pushing Bridgewater forward into the future. And we haven't touched on that question yet. I think that's number 1 coming up, but I also made it a point. I like to see all the boards, committees, and commissions be completely filled with volunteers. I think there's quite a few that are missing vital pieces of the puzzles, and vital volunteers. So I like to see us work toward getting all those seats filled going forward. So those are the things I see as important goals to do going forward.
All right, thank you. Mr. Noel, do you want me to repeat the question?
No,
Number 5?
I think I'm fine. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
yep.
I've already touched upon the budget. I do think that looking at our budget and our finances as a town, it's really important that we're that we really wrap our heads around, you know, the type of contracts that we're getting into. I think the second thing would be, you know, looking at small businesses. You know, how do we incorporate, you know, other small businesses in town? You know, when I walk, you know, when I walk the main road, I mean, you see great small businesses, but then as you walk further out, there are no businesses there. So certainly, perhaps an opportunity to look at, you know, how do we create small businesses? How do we create a pathway that would allow anyone who has an entrepreneurial mindset to create small businesses? Another thing is our partnerships. You know, BSU, I do realize that there are different dichotomy in town, and BSU is one dichotomy that seems to be, you know, operated separately but jointly, if that makes sense. And I'm looking at this from the lens as a citizens, right? You know, that there's an opportunity there to really strengthen that relationship. You know, perhaps, you know, there are ways to strengthen that relationship that would allow, you know, us to create a pathway for those that are graduating, you know, to remain in town. I would love to see what that data looks like, you know, once BSU students graduate after 4 years or after 2 years of their master's program. Where do they go? Are they even in town? You know, obviously real estate, you know, are there opportunities, you know, housing opportunities for them? I mean, there's just a number of things that I'm looking at from the lens of a citizen that I would certainly would want to bring forth if I were to be selected as a representative for the town.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Wood,
All right,
what do you have for a question?
already forgot.
Number 3, was it?
Number three.
All right. All right, so the administrative code requires the town clerk, energy committee, community preservation committee, and the library board of trustees report annually to the town council, yet the council rarely, if ever, schedules or requests those meetings. Do you think it is necessary for the council to hear from that office and those committees? In general, as a counselor, how would you ensure communication between all town departments, BCCs, and the council?
That's an excellent question, and COVID makes us forget sometimes that we were kind of on that road. So before COVID, I talked to the town manager, and he had set up a schedule whereby we would hear from all the boards and commissions and have a summary presentation during our meetings, including the groups that are required by the charter. And we made it partly through the list, and we heard from, I remember conservation, because Harry came and talked about that. I think Pat came and talked about the planning board and several others. And we were on a cycle to hear basically from just about everybody in the year. One of the things that's going to make the process that should be in place more evident is Councilor Moore is working on a calendar of events. And so a lot of those things should be scheduled in. So we've got time for budget hearings, we've got times for meeting with the school committee and finance committee, and we should have times for those other required, like the library trustees and the town clerk and everybody. It benefits the town council to hear from the committees or individuals so that they know what's going on in those bodies and can help those bodies do their job.
All right.
Since we're doing pretty well on time, can I just throw another thing in here? I heard Dr. Perry say that he'd like to see all the boards, committees, and commissions filled with volunteers. So would I. I'm always, I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm always out there recruiting, trying to get people onto those committees. Could each one of you just, or just, I don't know, if you don't have an idea, you don't have to throw it out, but throw out some ideas about how we get people to come for these volunteer positions. People are very busy. It's, of course, been awful with COVID. People have been isolated and overwhelmed. But what do we do now that we're coming out of this? How do we intrigue people? How do we help them understand how vital and important these positions are and get them to come and serve the town for free. I know you do too, as counselors, for free. So just any ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Can I take that first? Because I'll, as these gentlemen have done, I'll kind of add to an answer I gave earlier. So one of the most important things that the council can do this year is improve communication. And so what I find, and I've talked about this in other forums, what I find is it's really difficult to reach a large number of people in Bridgewater. Now that the enterprise is gone, and many people relied on that for a source of information, and I understand the criticism of not having town meeting because that would often bring a few hundred people together twice a year. But even in that setting, what you had was almost concentric circles because the people that showed up were interested in the things that needed to be done, not the general public. So when we have open positions, how do we advertise those? Well, we often use the town website. And I have criticized the town website time and time again, and it is impossible to find information. So it should be on the front page. Here are volunteer opportunities. These are the minutes from our most recent meetings. These are the meetings that are coming up. These are the agenda items that everybody's tackling and who's doing what and where. And so communication can't replace, what's happening with the loss of newspapers and maybe, Facebook groups that aren't in tune with it, but we have to focus on that as one of the top priorities.
Go ahead, Mr.
Noel,
Noel.
and then Dr. Perry.
I'm sorry.
You go right ahead. No problem.
Thank you. As you all know, when I moved into this town, we immediately hit the ground running. When I say we, my family and I, right? We started an NFL youth flag football league, and obviously building something from the ground up, requires a litany of things. One thing that we've done is we joined the Facebook groups, right? People are active on the Facebook groups. That's one thing that we've done. Certainly, I highlighted, the website, right? I definitely talked about that. But I'm also thinking about partnerships, right? I talked about BSU as a potential partnerships. Are there programs within BSU that we can create an internship pathway? Internships could be free. They could be for credit, right? If we're looking for volunteers, that's an intellectual horsepower, academic, facility that's probably not being tapped into, and these are young adults that are here for 4 years. How are we taking advantage of that? Are we taking advantage of it? I mean, there's a lot of questions around the different partnerships that we may or may not have. And again, I'm looking at this from the lens of a citizen. And as a citizen myself, I was able to engage parents and engage the town citizens utilizing what's already there on Facebook.
Thank you. Dr. Perry.
Thank you. Again, going back to the website, there are lists there of all the different committees. There's also lists of potential committees with vacancies, but I just don't think they are kept up to date as much as they should. I went back to a list that we did in a meeting back in June of all reappointments, and many of those reappointments have not been updated on the website quite yet. So I think, number one, that's where we have to start with to get an accurate listing of what committees are filled and what are not filled. The other thing I notice is there's 2 and 3 and 4 committees that the same person is on. So we have a lot of the same people on multiple committees, and I laud that. I think it's great, because you always, no matter if it's sports or town, all the same people tend to join the groups, be the coaches, be the scoutmasters and things of that nature. So I pose a challenge to all the people out there, step out of your comfort zone. Look into one of these positions. If you have a background in finance, look at some of the finance committees. If you have a background in outdoors and nature, look at some of the tree committee or things of that nature. I think it's important that variety of different people from various backgrounds from the town step up and help run the town in the direction that it needs to go in. The same people can't do the same things all the time. We need fresh blood. We need new ideas. We need new people to get involved. So I certainly put that challenge out to the people out there. Being a chiropractor in town, taking care of many townspeople, I see the backgrounds of some of the people I take care of, I'll actually ask a few of them here and there, hey, would you be interested in doing this, that, and the other thing? So, so I try on a ground roots effort to try and fill some of these positions, but I also would like to just put it out there. I would love to see other people step up and try and join these groups.
Thank you. I think we actually have time for one
One
more
more.
question,
Yeah.
right? What question haven't?
We haven't had number one yet.
You haven't had number one
I
yet,
haven't had number 2.
and you haven't had number two, so we're just gonna take
Right
those.
from here.
Oh, you're
So
gonna
these are
keep them so
done.
you can read them. I'm gonna cheat and look in the hat. Here is number two.
All right, so we can do one for Dr. Perry and Mr. Noel.
Here is number one. It was your turn to draw, right?
I think so.
I believe so. Yeah. 5 questions. Odd man gets it twice.
All right, so question number 1. So Bridgewater has 32 boards, commissions, and committees, which they call BCCs, where citizens appointed by the town manager and ratified by the town council volunteer their services for 2 to 5 years. What importance do you attach to those volunteer committees? What BCC meetings have you either attended or read the minutes for in the past 2 years, and why?
Thank you. You know, I'm really excited about hitting the ground running when we first moved to town. One of the things that I did was contacted the town manager, the assistant town manager, and other leaders within the town because I wanted to get involved. As a result, I found myself sitting, you know, as the chairperson for then our ad hoc DE&I committee. And for a year, you know, being on that committee, I served with a number of phenomenal people. I'm currently on the finance committee, as I've alluded to. This is my second term, if you will. My first term, I think I was there for about a year. I think it's very important to be part of these committees because it helps you understand what's going on in town, pros and cons. It helps you wrap your head around, you know, the disposition of our town. And, you know, I do think it's important to continue serving, and my objective is to continue serving. Hopefully, my serving the town will be in this seat. And if it's not in this seat, then certainly I do plan to continue serving and to be a value add to the town. I believe I've already been a value add. My family and I, we've already been a value add to a number of families, you know, through the initiatives of NFL flag football that we started, being engaged and interacting with families, joining these respective committees that I've highlighted, and working with a number of leaders within the town, you know, to strategize on, you know, things that we need to strategize on and to advise accordingly. So, you know, I'm very excited from a citizen perspective serving, and I remain excited, and hopefully that I'll have a seat here to join, you know, my colleagues who are currently town councilmen to continue serving.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Dr. Perry?
Thank you. As you know, to expand on what we just said, I think this is, you know, this is of significant importance. I feel the involvement of community members on these committees are vital to support the overall function of the town, guiding the growth, development, and operations of the town. Without the support of these volunteers, that the town could not continue to operate as it does. And I applaud Mr. Noel being in town for just a couple of years, how he's stepped on up to join these committees and organize the flag football. I think it's to be commended. And I would love to see more citizens do that because I think it's a stepping stone to join other departments in town to potentially run for town council. This is what the town needs to continue to grow and develop and to be as strong a community that it is. As I've mentioned to you before, you know, I'm a member of a number of the town council subcommittees. I worked 2 years on the master plan committee. I periodically, you know, look at the minutes of other committees when I have the opportunity to do so, especially planning board, ZBA, and school committee are the ones I tend to look at most often. But overall, it's important that, as I mentioned earlier, that we fill these roles with more volunteers so these boards can act and they can continue to function and do the jobs that they've been designed to do going forward, so we can work together with the town council, town manager, and the input of those committees to continue to move the town forward. Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Wood, you have number 2, right?
Correct.
All right. All right, so number 2 reads, citizens regularly complain because the town council does not respond to questions or concerns expressed during citizens forum or citizens comments. What is your opinion of that complaint? Understanding it is impossible for the council to respond on the spot, what would you recommend the council do to address citizens' concerns?
So during the two points in the agenda for the town council, citizens are offered an opportunity to step forward and basically say whatever they want over the course of 3 minutes. That usually falls into 2 categories. One is about the agenda specifically. So people are often in favor of or against something that's on the agenda, and they explain why. The second one is often a question: why do I have a pothole? Why is my street not getting plowed? Why is there a telephone pole, being placed at my corner? That sort of thing. So those are good questions, and sometimes it is very frustrating that we can't answer immediately. But those are also questions that, while they sound simple at the surface, often require some research. And often it's research by the town manager or a department of the town manager that has to do that to get that answer. So people need to remember also that the town council is a legislative body. It is not the selectmen, it's not the executive of the town. It's a legislative body that hires the executive of the town that runs the departments. And so the best thing to do for anyone standing up at the microphone saying, I don't like green grass or whatever it is, they really should follow up with their town council representatives. And everybody in town has 3. They have 2 at large, after the January 7th, they'll have 2 at large and a district representative. And so actually, right, the at large gets larger because there's many people that are supposed to represent them. But, focus on your district representative and the people, that will respond. I pride myself on always responding to an email inquiry from someone about something. Either I'll redirect or try to answer them directly. But the follow-up is the key. Say what you need to say at the meeting, follow up with an email to one of your many representatives on the town council, and hopefully they'll bring action for the citizen.
Excellent.
All right.
I think we've reached an end. Did you have prepared final statements that each of you would like to say? If so, let's do that. Mr. Wood, you just finished speaking, so let's go back to Mr. Noel and go down the line again, and just give a final, no more than 1 minute wrap up to sell yourself to your public.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Residents, Rig Noel, Coach Noel, I'm excited to be a resident of this town. I'm excited that my family and I, when we moved to this town, we were purposeful about getting involved. We've been involved from day one through our NFL flag football. We've been involved through my initiative with the ad hoc DE&I committee. We've been involved through my initiative with the finance committee, in which I currently serve and still serve. I think Bridgewater is a beautiful town. I really do. However, there are gaps that I believe that if selected, that I could work with my colleagues to help fill those gaps. Those gaps pertains to, small business initiatives. Those gaps pertains to the various partnerships that I believe lacks. I've highlighted BSU, Bridgewater State University, as an organization that potentially could be a strong partner because if we are able to retain some of the students that are here, this would help us, this would help our economics because these people would spend money here. They would create businesses. They would do a number of things that would certainly benefit the town of Bridgewater and the residents. So if selected, I'm excited to bring new energy. I'm excited to bring new thought, new disposition, and work with my colleagues to actually get work done. And by no means am I suggesting work isn't being done, but certainly there's more that we can do, and I'm looking at it from the lens of a citizen and a candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Perry?
Thank you. If you don't know me by now, I'm Dr. Kevin Perry. I'm a lifelong resident of the town, born and raised. Been a serving chiropractor to the community for the past 25 years. I've had a couple stints on the town council so far, originally representing Precinct 4, currently representing Precinct 2, but now running for the at-large now that we've redistricted the community. So as Mr. Wood said, we're going to have 6 at-large councilors and 3 district representatives. So I would certainly love to continue representing the town as a town council member. Now I can represent just about anybody in town, not just a precinct. I joined the council because I was, like I said, born and raised here. I wanted to continue to contribute to guiding the town in a great direction. It's a wonderful community. I've enjoyed being in the community all my life. That's why I came back to practice. That's why I came back to raise my family. I've enjoyed the time I've had on the council so far. I've got a great working relationship with the rest of my town council members and as well as the town manager. So I'd like to continue doing that. I want to continue representing the people of Bridgewater, because ultimately that is my job as a town council member, is to represent the citizens of the community. So when the election comes up in January, I hope to continue to receive your support and hope to continue the work that I'm doing on the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. Mr. Wood?
Thank you. So many people know I have been a district representative on the council, not quite forever, but for quite a while. And we've accomplished a lot. So we put the administrative code together. We got that up and standing. We put the really the finances into good order. With the help of the Stiles and Hart family, we were able to buy an open space and starting to make that a really great park for the district and the town at whole. So I had a long list of items I wanted to accomplish when I first got on the council, and that list is considerably shorter. But I wanted to run at least one more time to really finish off the list. And there's some administrative work that needs on Stiles and Hart. There's the dam project over on High Street. There's the Oak Street Bridge that we may never actually get finished. But also, people that know me know that I'm a bit conservative but socially responsible. And so one of the things that is on my list is the January 7th question 1. And, working hard to get question 1 passed, because to me, the risk factors are already in Bridgewater that others talk about. There is a proliferation of retail shops around Bridgewater, and it represents a sizable amount of taxes that can go toward fixing the Oak Street Bridge, putting a dog park in, and some other capital projects that are smaller in nature. And with that tax revenue, the town council gets to guide what happens to that tax revenue. It doesn't have to go into the general fund. It could be directed toward downtown revitalization. It could be directed towards sidewalk repair. It could be directed elsewhere. But it's taxes that the town is missing, and so that's one of the items I have left. And whether I get reelected on the 7th is immaterial, because the question is there, and the town will decide on its own. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to close this out, if that's okay, Peter. I would just, if the camera's looking, vote, 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 vote. January 7th, here's our flyer. It tells you who's running, and it tells you the exact words of that question that Mr. Wood was talking about. I thank you very much for being participants here this evening, all 3 of you, and I look forward to seeing the other 4 at in another day, 2 days, in 2 days on Wednesday. It'll seem shorter on TV or YouTube when you're seeing them back to back. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, BTV. Thank you, Peter Linares, for being a great co-moderator. Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.